A hybrid future. We have a very strong opinion on this, and we think we have, well, a funded opinion, because CloudVPS is world famous in the Netherlands. We're one of the largest public cloud providers in the Netherlands, if not the largest, and we've got actually the first public OpenStack cloud in the Netherlands, which is interesting because I think there's 2 or 3 public clouds in Europe, if even, and well, we've got one in the Netherlands, which is nice. We've been running our own cloud stack for a few years now, so we've got lots of experience with virtualization, with private clouds, platforms, open source. That is all, it comes very natural for us because we've got a very strong focus on product development. We've got our own open source developers, and they've been working hard on building up our own system. And yet, I'm here to talk about OpenStack. So why is that? We think OpenStack is the platform of the future. What we did a while ago was build our own stack, a cloud platform, and we discovered that the others were basically quicker, more features, better features, more interesting features. So we then decided, okay, what should we do? Should we stick with our own platform, or should we switch to something else? We decided OpenStack is the future. And why is it? There's no more vendor lock-in, as you've all heard, which is nice for the customers because they can come and go as they please. The open API is very interesting because it allows other solution providers to use the API and add to the OpenStack experience. So OpenStack was a logical choice. For us, it meant we were able to focus our development to to specific adding value to our customers. We built a Skyline interface. As you may or may not know, OpenStack by default has an interesting web interface, but not the most customer-friendly one. We built another one, which I'll go to show you later on. And we decided we need to not just take from the community, but give back as well. Giving back for us means we do bug fixes. We're a fairly small company, yet we try to do big things, so we try to give back as much as we can. Bug fixes, obviously. Swift, the object store, by default comes with a web interface which is not so nice. We added drag and drop functionality, that sort of thing, which is nice. It works. But then, the hybrid future. We didn't just choose OpenStack because it allows us to switch from our own platform to something else. We chose it because it's a really enriching environment, not for us, but for our customers. Why is it? Because we see, as I just explained to you, there's an open API, which allows others to add on to the OpenStack experience. It also means there are more and more management tools, such as Red Hat CloudForms or HP Cloud System, which use the OpenStack API to control OpenStack. And this is interesting. You've heard the talk by Red Hat just now. Why switch to OpenStack if you want to just test drive it or kick the tires, as the man said? That's true. There's more. If you want to switch from your own environment to OpenStack, you probably don't want to do that in one go. You want something which allows you to easily transition from one to the other. Those management tools, they are really powerful because they allow you to stay in control of your environment. They allow you to keep what's yours and use what you need more. For instance, extra capacity, peak capacity, that sort of thing. VMware basically does the same thing, but that uses the other approach. It allows you to control vSphere from OpenStack. Again, OpenStack is, as explained by Red Hat just now, is hypervisor agnostic. It doesn't really matter what you use, just as long as you use one. And that allows you to keep your investments. You've been using VMware, or you've been using KVM, or whatever platform it is. Add on to it by using OpenStack. We'd like to add to that experience. I must explain to you, I didn't quite keep time, so just as long as I stick within the limits, then I'm good. I just need to check, sorry. This is where you can tell that I was supposed to be just sitting in the audience, but you know, blame me later, please. The experience of keeping what's yours and adding on to it by using OpenStack, we'd like to add to that. So we've defined our own roadmap. What we have right now is OpenStack Compute, virtualization, computing instances, use it as you like. Object store, scalable storage, I'm sure you're all familiar with it, so I'll move on. And then, those are the basics, but then, what is next? For us, it's stuff like load balancing as a service in end of this year, orchestration, being able to orchestrate your installation, either by stuff like Puppet or Ansible, those technologies. Very interesting because it allows you to quickly set up a copy of your environment in OpenStack or an addition to your current platform. Database as a service. Why those three? Those three items are usually the stuff that you need to think about, need to organize, need to talk about with your team, with your engineers, etc., etc. With OpenStack now, you can just have it as a service, which means it's there, it's for you to use, which means that it's much easier now for you to switch some parts of your environment, if not all, from your current in-house solution to OpenStack. You don't have to worry about, for instance, databases anymore. You don't need your DBA to tell you which box to buy, which server to administer, etc. It's just there. You can just use it. For rapid deployment or for stuff you need to tinker with, such as a DTAP environment, development test, etc., it's fantastic. Just grab it, use it, install it. Don't worry about the databases because it's there. Don't worry about the load balancing. It's there. Fantastic. Sorry, one back. This is not just us. We're using this because it's delivered by OpenStack, and we think this is exactly one of those features why you need OpenStack, one of those reasons why you need OpenStack, why we need it, because we can offer you more services to make sure you do your business well. Which comes to the next slide, public cloud use. We already see more and more interest growing in using the cloud and using it properly. And that has to do with the fact that the cloud, the public cloud, is very flexible. You pay as you go, basically. If you don't use it, you don't pay for it. If you don't like it, you just throw it away. There's hardly any investment to be made. Imagine you're going to try something new, something big, and you're not sure if it's going to work. Imagine you'd have to buy your boxes first, your hardware first. That's rather a big investment. Now imagine just using one of those layers I talked about before, which reduce or diminish or just basically take away the barrier between your own infrastructure in-house and OpenStack, and use the OpenStack environment to enrich your current offering, your current systems in-house. There's no investment to be made. You don't have to buy boxes which you need to, well, pay off in 3 years or try and sell it after a while, whatever, or toss them in the bin. If you decide it's not for you, then it's not for you. You just throw your OpenStack environment in the public cloud away. The investment risk is next to nil. Another advantage is, if you use stuff as a service, then you won't be bothered, you don't have to bother yourself with the hardware which underlies the solution. So you don't have to know anything about the hardware. It's just there, you know. So basically what you're doing is all the non-essential activities, you just outsource them. Brilliant. And another one, what we see is that more and more applications on the market today are somehow, or in some way, cloud-ready or cloud-aware, which means that they understand scalability. It's built in as a, well, one of the basics in the program. That's very interesting, because OpenStack is very scalable. Imagine, for instance, imagine you want to use stuff like that, scalability, and you have an application which is cloud-ready. You don't have to buy peak capacity anymore, because it's in the cloud. As said, the barrier between your own environment and OpenStack is hardly there, which means those applications can just move from your own environment when the peak capacity is needed to OpenStack, or you just retrieve more capacity from the OpenStack platform and scale your application. This is very interesting, but it just doesn't work like that, as simple as that, because businesses, as you all know, have very specific requirements. The most important one is trust. It's all nice and good that there's this environment which you can use, but is it safe to use? Is it okay to use? We think it is, but we could do more by focusing or putting emphasis on the security and privacy aspect. Everyone knows that post-Snowden, privacy has gone down the loo, and yet it's become more and more important than it ever has been. Especially for specific types of data. You don't want your medical information, for instance, to just be investigated by foreign nations or whatever it is. The same goes for your financial records. They're yours and not someone else's. Government has a very specific set of rules and desires. I don't think Merkel was really happy when her phone was tapped, for instance. This is very important. We see this as well. This is why we built a European OpenStack environment. OpenStack allows us to do this. It's fantastic in that respect. Because it's open source, we can actually see what's under the hood. And because we are now with a small 2 to 3 company group of companies in Europe, hopefully more, so if there's any of you there, come on, build your OpenStack environments. It's good for all of us. We can provide OpenStack and the trust that comes with European OpenStack right now. We can do that. And we can add to the sense of security by adding certification. It offers some guarantees. You know, ISO 27001. In the Netherlands, there's a version called NEN 7510, which is specifically aimed at medical data. Those are very nice standards, but they're a few years old. So what we did together with KPMG is add an additional set of controls, which is an add-on to ISO 27001 and then 7510, called the cloud controls. All because we might want to make absolutely sure that you can trust OpenStack as a platform. It would be silly not to use such a fantastic technology because of all sorts of business fear. So if you're going to build your own OpenStack environments, or if you're interested in making sure that your business is safe, look at those cloud controls. They go into details like multi-tenancy problems, making sure that you get your resources while your next door neighbor is not using up all your resources, that sort of thing. It also goes into stuff like you're hosting your data in our cloud. What happens to your data if, for some reason, something goes wrong with us and we don't exist anymore? It's all being taken care of. From a business side of things, this is very interesting because there's no business barrier anymore to use this great technology. We see this. We see that this works. We get more and more interested parties, mainly medical for now, and financial institutions, who come to us and say, look, we want to use this. But there's more. We also see, for instance, marketing companies. There's a group of companies which does all sorts of marketing campaigns. And for them, OpenStack is a fantastic use case, a fantastic platform. Because well, you know, marketing, you start a campaign which is all peak in a very short time, but you don't really want to invest in the hardware underlying the platform. Just grab it from one of the cloud providers and be happy. If you're done with your campaign, just throw away what you have. In the Netherlands, I'm sure that many of you know this, Kieskompas, whenever there's an election held in the Netherlands, then Kieskompas is one of those environments, one of those parties who can help you make a choice, choose the right party, political party for you. Kieskompas is one of the prime examples who are now hosted in the cloud. They're very happy with this. But there's more, of course. There's the object store, which is great for stuff like backup and recovery. The problem with backups is that you need to buy boxes which deliver the full capacity, even though at the beginning of your backup cycle, it only uses a very little amount of a very little percentage of that full capacity. So you have to buy the peak capacity instead of the actual use. The object store is a fantastic solution for that. You pay as you go, first of all. Second of all, it's off-site. Third of all, you can encrypt as you like, so it's going to be completely safe as well. Another nice use case of scalability is big data. One of our customers does something with those gigantic maps of the Earth, and they do lots and lots and lots of processing on this. Those maps are huge. It's terabytes of data. And they occasionally need to process those, but they don't continuously need to process those. So what they do is they just start up a number of virtual machines, then process them and be done with it. It's a brilliant use of OpenStack. And finally, and this is more the traditional cloud environment we have, we see lots of customers who want to get rid of their local IT infrastructure as much as they can, especially the desktops. The hardware is giving them all sorts of headaches. So what they do is they run their desktops within our clouds. We see lots and lots of users doing that. And they are interested in OpenStack as well because it's much easier to deploy new versions, new standards, try out stuff, etc. So far, so good. This is where it gets a bit more interesting. You've all heard these wonderful stories about how good OpenStack is and that it solves all your problems and that's a miracle cure for anything and everything. And one of the most heard items is that you can, it's very flexible and you can have resources at your command whenever you need them. The next slide contains a small movie which shows you exactly this. I asked one of our engineers to create a demo. It's only going to take you 3 minutes or so. And the demo itself is a representation of a scalable application. What we built is a system which consists of 3 parts. There's a web server which provides all sorts of web pages and as you normally would have one. There's a load balancer, which you need in order to spread out the load over more boxes. And there's some sort of daemon, which basically tries to see if the quality of service is still up to speed, up to par. And this is where it gets interesting. With OpenStack, you can actually start to make there we go. I should have practiced this more, apparently. With OpenStack, the quality of the service is something you can determine beforehand. Because in the old way, the quality of the service was stretched until your box couldn't do any better or couldn't go any faster, and that was it then. Then it would fall over. With OpenStack, the resources are scalable, they're there, etc., etc. So we've got this daemon, this process, this program, which looks at the performance of the website and looks if it's still performant enough and if the quality of the service is still high enough. And now, there we go. What you see here is our guy logging in the web page, opening his account just to make sure that everything is there, seeing what's in there, etc. This is Skyline. This is the improved version of the OpenStack web interface. He'll now show you which service he has. As you can see, there's 3 servers, the 3 I explained just now. And the next thing is he'll start up the quality watchdog, which is that dark terminal screen in the corner. There you go. And the watchdog looks at the number of waiting requests, right now 0. And then he'll simulate right there in the top corner, the top right corner, an attacker or a horde of website users, etc. And what you can see is that the number of requests waiting to be processed in the bottom right corner is now growing. It went from 0 to 5. Apparently 5 is still okay. So what our guide now does in the top left corner, the top right corner, is say, okay, simulate more active users. There we go. Not 5 active users anymore, but I think 25 or so. And what you can see is that the quality watchdog says, look, I see too many requests still waiting in the queue. I'll automatically boot a new server. We now have 4 servers. We just had 3. We now have 4. Fantastic. If you want to see what our network looks like, we can even graph it for you. This is the network topology. This is all rendered in real time. As you can see, he'll play around with it. Brilliant. And then the system says, look, I added another server, but I still see there's too many requests waiting to be processed. So the system just added another server to make sure that the load goes down. Nothing to do there. It's all automatic. It's all scripted. This is, coming back to one of the earlier slides, this is the automation bit. The orchestration bit, sorry. But now we have 5 servers. So what happens if we stop? As you can see, the network graph is automatically updated, so we know exactly which machines we have. What happens if we stop the number of requests, if we reduce them? Then we don't want to pay anymore for the amount of service we have because they're doing nothing. So the watchdog sees this, and he says, look, I'm going to take away in 3, 2, 1. Right now, I'm going to take 1 machine away. Because we don't need 5 anymore, we need 4. And if I count correctly, yeah, there's 1 gone already. Oh, there it goes. See? That's how it goes. So this is it, basically. If you have a web environment or a system that has very dynamic workloads, you can now not boot systems up anymore by yourself, by hand, but you can actually have the system do it for you. So all you need to worry about is stuff like, questions like, how long do I want to keep people waiting? What is the quality of the experience they should be experiencing, the quality of the service they should be experiencing. All of that is now possible with OpenStack. I thank you for your attention. If you have any questions or if you'd like to have a go at it, feel free. There's a voucher in the goodie bag. If you have any questions, just send us an email. And best of all, I've just been told what's next to this presentation, the next presentation. Stick with it. It's going to be fun. Thank you for your attention.